we'll start by talking about how difficult it is to photograph something that you see all the time. And I thought we'll start with something really simple. An example I'll bring up on the screen now. This planet here. So hopefully you can see on the screen now. I've got a picture of a planet up. Now about, what was it, 2015-16, I thought, I've always had an interest in the stars and what it really is, what's out there, what's in there, what is it all. So I started looking and I got myself a 5-inch Celestron telescope and the Barlow adapter and stuck my 5D at the time on there and started taking pictures of the moon, sun, the sun, stars, planets. And even with a 5-inch scope, which I think equated to about, the size of the scope equated to about a 1200mm zoom. And 1200mm zoom is great. But what non-photographers won't realise is at 1200mm, every single little thing shakes. Can you see my friend Bobblehead here? Del boy. You see how he's constantly shaking? Even when everything's perfectly still, he's constantly shaking. And at 1200mm zoom, your camera's doing the same. Whether it's a bit of wind, whether you've just trod on the ground nearby, whether you've farted, trust me, it will make that camera shake. So when you're trying to photograph something there's a tiny little dot in the sky, that actually sometimes the planets and stars can look quite bright and quite big to the human eye. They don't look like that to a camera or to a 1200mm lens. So, you know, I'm setting up now. I always struggle with my telescope. It's an electronic telescope and it's got the predetermined coordinates and stuff in it. So theoretically you can set it up and tell it to follow anything from anywhere, but I could never get that bug. I don't know if I just didn't have the patience. So more often than not, when I was looking for planets and stars and stuff, I would eyeball them, I'd get them by eye, get them in frame. So I couldn't follow them very well. I could only follow them by manually moving the telescope with them, and that's a bit clunky. So quite often on my videos of my planets, stars, moon, things are moving because I could never get the bloody telescope to move with it. I've seen people that can much better, but I never had the time or the arseness to do that. So my videos are quite often a bit shaky and quirky. But once you've got, once you've got the lens set on a planet, let's say for example Saturn. I think this one's Saturn. Saturn's got rings, hasn't it? Jupiter. It's there in view. Now when you look through a viewfinder, you can see it very clear, exceptionally clear. It's only probably a couple of degrees most of arc in the viewfinder, but you can see it well enough to see the detail. And if you're looking at the Saturn and the rings, you can see the rings. You can see the moons around the Jupiter, and it's quite clear when you're looking through it. So a bit of trial and error, you get the camera set up because you're not sure what the aperture is. You've got a 5-inch scope that's an aperture equivalent. You're trying to get a fast shutter. You don't want to use much ISO because you don't want the noise if you can help it. And eventually you get to a point where you think you're going to get a clear shot. And if we just look at the EXIF data for this, let's see what we shot at. Canon 5D Mark III, 1/200th of a second, ISO 256. So that must have been because it was, even with a 5-inch scope, we're not talking a lot of light coming in there. 1/200th of a second. I must have gone faster, but couldn't have got it any faster because clearly, if I'm at 25600 ISO, I ain't getting much more shutter in that. So, if you look at how it's in the sky, I'm pre-planned. I've got a professional scope. I've got a professional camera. I've got rough settings. 200th of a second. It's blink of an eye. It should be quick enough to freeze it. I've made sure that it's not windy. I'm nowhere near it. I'm using a remote release. And still, all I get is that. Now that's been cropped. How big is the file now? Image size 1086 pixels across. So even at that magnitude, the original file would have been about 5000 pixels, I think, across. So it's like 20% as big as what it should be in the screen. and that's all you get with that professional bit of kit. So it's not much, and you can see as you move in, you can see more detail, you can see colours, you can see bands, you can see the crescent. Some of that will be colour and lens distortion because of the kit that I'm using. Some of it will be the white balance might have been off. But that's a planet that you can see through the telescope quite clearly. But try and take a picture of it, even at 200th of a second on a very, very calm day with a remote shutter. The amount of vibration off that shutter going, mirror locked up, the amount of vibration causes it to be fuzzy, because it doesn't look like that through the lens when you're taking the shot. And if we reduce it down, look, never gets any better. So that's what you're going to get with that kind of kit. Canon 5D, professional quality telescope, Celestron. I think they call it NXE or NX5 SE, something like that. I can't remember off the top of my head. That's all you can get through it without any additional magnification. So I think I'm using a Barlow 1.25 inch Barlow adapter. That's how you connect the camera to the telescope. So, you know, when you're sitting there going, oh, that's a shit picture, that's not very good, that's God, this day and age, can't you get better than that? Of course you can get better than that. But with that kind of entry-level kit that I got, that's not even entry-level. I've got using a Pro camera, Canon 5D, and I'm using a Pro telescope, 5-inch telescope, and that's the best I can get. So, let's say, for example, you've got something in the sky that's whizzing past you, that's not as far away as that, perhaps, but looks as small as that in the sky, and you've got a split second, even with professional kit, to find it, set up, take some shots. What's the chances of you getting it sharp, in focus, correctly exposed, or somewhere nearly exposed? Pretty crap, to be fair. And I'll show you an example video of this. A couple of years ago, I was following the ISS, the International Space Station, whatever that is and wherever it's supposed to be, and I thought I'm gonna photograph this, but it's a tiny little blip in the sky, and you can see on the screen where I've got the little red circle where it's going to appear in the clouds, going from this is looking west, so it's kind of like northwest to southwest, and you'll see a little white dot up here. You see that there? Now that's the ISS, International Space Station. And this is one of the reasons why I'm always very skeptical when you see photographer photographs, clear picture of the ISS transgressing the moon or the sun. I'm thinking, oh, a lot of bollocks. So this is a 24-105mm lens at full width. So this is zoomed in 200%. So you can see the stars in the background, and you can see the ISS or whatever it is, hot air balloon for all I know, going where the app said it was going to go. And it took about 7 or 8 minutes, I think, to transverse the sky. So this is 6 short segments of that. Looks like an aeroplane the way it's blinking. I don't know why it blinks. It's probably the reflection or refraction or some other action. And that's 1,000 times zoomed in. So even at a time and a place where I knew, sorry, that's the 1,000 zoom there. Even at a time and a place where I knew this thing was going to be in the sky, where it was going, roughly how fast it was going, with a digital DSLR camera, 24-105 lens, set at 24mm. That's the best I can get of that. Now we can see it in the sky, we can see it going from right to left, we can work out how fast it's going probably. But other than that, it's just a dot in the sky. And that's me sitting up. I mean, it probably took about 20 minutes of footage before it came into view, just making sure I got it. And it doesn't matter how much you zoom in, you never see anything better than that white dot going across the sky. Now you could argue that I could have used this. I could have tried it with the telescope. I could have done, but I wasn't exactly quite sure which piece of sky it was going to appear in. And then I'm tracking it with the telescope. There's no way at 1200mm you can handhold and track it, because you'll just be shaking like the proverbial shitting dog, as they say. And there's no way I would have ever got it in focus or in frame. So you're left using the motor, which is left, right, up and down. and it's quite jerky, so it would have been so it would have been in and out of frame doing that. And I'm not sure, even at 1200mm, given what I saw from the planets, I can't remember if it's Saturn or Jupiter, that one, what you get in a still photo, and looking at what you get in this video, if I bunch it on to there again, 1,000 times 24mm, how much even at 1200mm you'll get in terms of detail. So just thinking about that, I knew what it was, I knew where to look, I knew what to set the camera up. I'm shooting through a window, so I'm losing a bit of clarity. So I guess I'm on a hill, it's pitch black, I've got twice the zoom I've got, still getting, let's say I've got 4 times the zoom I've got, let's say I've got something that can track it technically. You see the pictures you see of the ISS, let's say, against the moon or against the sun, or clear as day. I'm not convinced any of that's real. Happy to be proven wrong.